This disabled Amazon driver.
Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches. I'm your host, as always, guys. Coach Steve here. We have another fantastic episode for you guys today here. We are talking Week 6 starts and sits as we break down each game with the possible starts and sits from each contest. With me today is, of course, Coach John. Coach John, what's going on, brother?
Nothing much. Another beautiful Thursday. Get to do start sits with my friend and answer questions in the chat. I love Thursdays. They're the best.
I love it. Me too. So we have a lot to get through, so we're not going to dilly-daddle here. We're going to get right into the fantasy news for the day. Obviously, we mentioned a lot of this on Monday, but it's been confirmed. Justin Jefferson, Devon Achane, and James Conner all went to the IR. Now, John, would you be trading for any of these players in redraft right now? Like, do any of these players shout out as buy lows as they go on the IR?
The only one to me, I mean, Justin Jefferson is really the only one out of those three that I think. But again, there is a real risk, and I've been thinking about it more and more today, kind of. If the Vikings really stink over the next 4 or 5 weeks and say they go 1-4 over the next 5 weeks and they're totally out of it, I don't see why Justin Jefferson would rush back kind of injured with contract negotiations going on. So, it could be tough, but also Justin Jefferson on this list is the one that could set your team over the top. Like if you're already, 4-1 or, 4-1 or whatever we're at, 3-1, and you add Justin Jefferson, and then in 3-4 weeks he comes back healthy, 4 weeks because he's on IR, he comes back healthy. Yeah, that's the type of player that could make your team a superstar team. So that's the one that I would be actively trading for in redraft.
What are you giving up for a player like that?
I mean, what if you could turn?
That's a big question there.
Yeah, I mean, so if you could turn, like sort of maybe Zay Flowers, you could turn sort of, one of these sort of rookies that show some promise, maybe
like as a team, let's switch it around this way. Instead of actively trading for, what are you looking in return? If you're a team that's 1-4, 2-3, are you holding on to him, or
no? I think you gotta. I think if you're scraping by to try and get wins, I think you got to trade Justin Jefferson.
What would you feel comfortable in getting return in that sense? Like, what would you want? Who do you want?
Who is a tough question, but what I would want would be sort of, what would be a great one, and it probably wouldn't happen because of the name and the offense and all that, but like a Jalen Waddle, Waddle.
Like, would you do Waddle straight up?
I would do if I'm 1-4 and I'm struggling to get wins. I would do Waddle for Jefferson straight up.
Would you give up Waddle to get Jefferson as well on the flip side?
On the flip side, if I'm 4-1, and I would be okay doing that. It's okay. Like he's kind of underperformed, hasn't looked the best. Things could change with Devon Achane out, and so he's one that I think could bounce second half and be a strong second half player. So that's kind of someone I'd be targeting.
All right. So
and Justin Jefferson is kind of, I think he's about enough to get that done.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, with these three players, again, they're big name players for fantasy lineups this year. And honestly, I don't think I would really want to trade too many of them. I feel like because each one has their own situation, where I think James Conner has like the clearest path to probably come back and get his position back right away. Like I think Justin Jefferson takes more time than the 4 weeks. The Vikings are in a situation where they're losing game after game. It wouldn't be smart for them. It wouldn't be smart for Jefferson after 4 weeks to rush back on the lineup. If they're 1-8 by the time he returns, like, what's the point? Like, why even put him back in the game? Why risk your season next year for Justin Jefferson to be back on your lineup where you're kind of basically out of the playoffs? So that's concerning to me. I preferably don't really want to be trading for Justin Jefferson right now. To me, I feel like it could be a longer term thing than the 4 weeks. But I mean, it's a good bargain if you can get the right piece right now for sure. Because you just never know. I could be completely wrong. Devon Achane, I'm concerned that the Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert duo gets things going, and they kind of bring back Devon Achane on a slow motion, and he takes more time to get back going. James Conner, like, the Cardinals don't give a shit. They're just going to continue to just throw whoever they can out there to be competitive. Like, if James Conner's ready to go, they're going to throw James Conner out there. It's not like James Conner has all these years left on his resume. Like, let's just throw James Conner out there. We paid him, put him out there on my team, in the starting roster. So Tony Pollard is questionable. Can I play him Monday? Yes, you should be able to play Tony Pollard Monday. Tony Pollard injury. Just looking up his update on this injury real quick here. Shoulder injury. He should be fine. He was a limited participant today on Thursday. I mean, if there was something really wrong with him, you'd find out tomorrow for sure. But I see no issue with him missing any time, especially this week. So, players in danger this week. Sam Laporta, he showed up on the did not practice report today because of a calf injury. Miles Sanders did not practice. Khalil Herbert, did not practice. Roshan Johnson did not practice today with his concussion. David Njoku did not practice. Deshaun Watson did not practice, which he's looking more and more likely he's going to miss. Jahmyr Gibbs did not practice. He did work out on the sideline with trainers today, but he did not practice today. Neither did Daniel Jones, who's dealing with that neck injury. And Treylon Burks already out. He's not playing in week 6. He's not traveling to London. Players at practice this week: Wan'Dale Robinson, Darren Waller, Amon St. Brown. Looks like he's a full practice today, so he's fine. He should be back and ready to go. Saquon Barkley is still a question mark. Odell Beckham played a full day of practice today. T. Higgins looks promising to return this week, so that is something to look forward to. And Greg Dulcich activated off the IR. So nice. Some good things for the practices this week. So we're going to keep going through the motions and get right into the starts and sits for this week here. So let's get things going. Start off with the first one: the Baltimore Ravens and the Tennessee Titans. The big question in this game for me that I came up with is Tajay Spears worth a flex play this week? He had 14 fantasy points last week, John. Got a touchdown. He's playing over 50% of the snaps right now. Is he flex worthy for you in this matchup?
He is flex worthy for sure. He is flex worthy. In this matchup, I think it could be a little tougher. Baltimore's secondary is where you kind of beat Baltimore. You don't really beat them on the ground. But he looks great. I don't think Tannehill really can throw the ball as much as they're going to let him and allow him. I don't know if he can. So, maybe it is just Derrick Henry, Tajay Spears every week, just, getting fed carries and stuff. So he has shown enough to me. We talked about it all preseason. We saw it in the preseason games. He looked great. It was just a matter of time until he got in the end zone and starts popping off. And I think the transition in Tennessee is happening, sooner rather than later. So I'm totally fine with flexing Tajay Spears.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm still a little concerned with the production overall. I mean, he's looking good. Don't get me wrong. He has looked good. But just nervous of that. He's seen about almost close to 10 touches a game, which is fine. Yeah, I mean, if you're in a desperate situation, I think he's an okay flex option for you this week. If you're looking for something, maybe you're dealing with a lot of injuries and you need to throw somebody in there. I think Spears has himself a solid role so far in the offense that he should be good enough to be able to flex this week. We do have a question in the chat here. Mixon and Pickens. That's a trade question. Mixon and Pickens for Jacoby Myers, I'm assuming, Zay Flowers, and James Conner. Is that a fair deal? I have Waddle and CD and Swift and Pollard. My bench is kind of thin at wide receiver. So you're looking to pick up two wide receivers.
Yeah, it's absolutely a fair trade. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely a fair trade. It's just the big wild card here is, James Conner. But I think, like you said, I think once James Conner is healthy, Arizona is just going to roll him out. Like they have no reason to hold him back. They have no reason to not play him. So, it's not like Justin Jefferson where he could be healthy or, healthy and kind of not play and do whatever, right? Whereas James Conner, if he's healthy, Arizona's playing him. So yeah, I think this is totally a fair trade. You're going to be kind of dicey at running back until James Conner comes back. Kind of having to play this. Maybe you playing the waiver wire game a little, but once Conner's back and you have Flowers, Myers, Waddle, CD, Swift, Pollard, like that's a great, that's a good trade, good lineup.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair. I think you're selling. I think you're selling off of the George Pickens right now, coming off a hot week here. Deontay Johnson's coming back in week 7. Joe Mixon really just hasn't really done too much this year to overly impress me. That like I'm concerned about having him on my team. And then Jacoby Myers has been solid this year. Zay Flowers hasn't I don't think had his best games yet this season. And then eventually you'll have James Conner back on your team as long as you can get by without having a third option at RB, and maybe you do. I'd say it's a decently fair trade overall here. And I think you could mix Myers and Flowers each week in the flex, depending on the matchup. So I like it. Question from Albert. Chris Godwin or Brandon Ayuk this week? Chris Godwin's got the Lions. Brandon Ayuk's got Cleveland.
That's a tough one. I think honestly, it's two factors. One, Mike Evans was out of practice again today. So there could be a chance there's no Mike Evans. And if that's the case, then 100% it's Chris Godwin because he'll get volume. All that, right? The Brandon Ayuk one is interesting because I don't think Cleveland is going to score many points. There's talk of, Watson missing again. Who knows who's going to play quarterback for them at that point. PJ Walker, great, awesome. Start up your 49ers defense. It could just get ugly quick, and they'll just run the ball with Christian McCaffrey 100 times because they can. So, I think you can play Ayuk, obviously, because he's always a threat for a touchdown. But, I would be a little more wary. And so I would lean Chris Godwin. And then if Evans is out, I'm 100% playing Godwin. Like, it's not even a question at that point.
Yeah, I think I like that strategy there, honestly. I think if Mike Evans misses, Albert, you throw Chris Godwin in there, you start him automatically. If not, you take that upside play with Brandon Ayuk because he has that upside in him to produce big games. Last week wasn't as big, but I feel like this is a rotation when it comes to these 49ers pass catchers, and I think this could be a Brandon Ayuk week for him. But if there is no Mike Evans, it's almost hard not to start Chris Godwin and the target share he's going to receive in this game. So Brandon Ayuk for me, but if Mike Evans is out, then I'd lean towards Godwin at that point. All right, SNM. Should I sell Devon Achane for Jerome Ford? I'm 0-5. If it's not for Ford, then who do you think I should try to get?
I think Jerome Ford's a good target. I think that's probably the level of player you could get for Achane. Maybe you knock on the Ramondre Stevenson owner's door and maybe he's sick of Ramondre. Like, I don't know. Like, but that's probably, you have to be realistic. Like, maybe Madison, maybe Alexander Madison, maybe that's someone you could go kind of trade for. I think the ship has sort of sailed on Kyron Williams. I don't think you can trade for him anymore.
Definitely not.
Yeah, you're going to have to find someone who's either just middle of the road, like a Madison or a Jerome Ford, or find a guy who's struggling but has some upside. That's kind of where I would go. But Ford for in is if you're 0-5, that's a totally whatever, right? At this point, you're just trying to get wins. You need to win at this point, or else you're going to be totally out of the playoffs by week 8. So, I'm okay with this trade. I really am. And it sucks because Achane is a way better player than Jerome Ford. It's just the problem is Achane could be out for, 5 weeks. And it's like, it does you no good in redraft.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fine trade if you want to go in that direction. I think Jerome Ford's a fine running back you can get and add to your team if you're looking for those wins. I think Rashard White is another option, also coming off his bye. He's kind of has that backfield to himself, unlike Jerome Ford. So that's another option. But either one of those is fine if you're looking for wins. 0-5. I mean, Devon Achane's not helping you right now, and you need wins. So yeah, definitely a good one. Manuel said, "What's up, Jalen or Javonte?" So Jalen McLaughlin or Javonte Williams tonight, full point PPR.
Ooh, boy, what a tough one. Jesus.
It is a tough one, but I like it. I like it. It's a great question.
So crazy because this is so crazy because you could say either guy and be wrong no matter what. Like it could just go wrong for so many reasons. I honestly, I do believe that Jaleel has done enough in this offense. I said it on Monday. I think he's done enough in this offense to earn snaps and carries and all that. I don't think you're going to take a guy who in back-to-back weeks looked awesome, looked explosive, and just say, we're going to go back to P. Ryan and Javonte. Like, here's the bench. I don't think they're going to do that. So I think it is now going to be Javonte and Jaleel. And Jaleel is the much more explosive, big play kind of guy. Again, similar to like what Zeke and Pollard were for years. And, Jaleel is going to be he's a wild card. He could get you 20 points. He could get you, 3 or 4 points if he doesn't get in the end zone or have a big run. Javonte feels a little bit more solid, but I don't know if the ceiling is there for Javonte. Javonte would have to have multiple touchdowns to really like put up a huge number. Whereas Jaleel could rip off a couple big runs, catch a big pass, and maybe fall in the end zone, and you could get 18 to 20 points.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing there. I'd lean Javonte, but it's more of a 6 or 7 point kind of day from him. I don't expect a big game from him. And Jaleel is much more boom or bust, where, like John said, 20 point or 3 points out of him. So it depends what your lineup needs this week, to be honest. So. But
there's a world, I'll be honest too, and this is why I'm nervous answering this question. There's a world where both of those guys don't look good, and
no, probably not.
And Kansas
City
not great
options. They're not
Kansas City just rips them up. There's a chance that happens too.
Yeah, no, they're definitely not great options. Manuel has another question: Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Michael Thomas, pick 2, 4 point PPR.
Oh man, I think again this comes down to if Deshaun Watson plays or not, which it doesn't look like he's gonna. So if he's not playing, I would do Chris Godwin, Michael Thomas. If he is playing, I would do Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper.
Okay. I'd still lean Cooper over Thomas, even with PJ Walker, but I would definitely go Chris Godwin in that scenario. So, all right. We got a question from Dylan in the chat here. 12 team redraft full point PPR, traded DeAndre Hopkins for Joe Mixon straight up to the Jetty owner. My depth at running back. Tony Pollard, James Cook, Khalil Herbert's hurt, Tajay Spears. He has Diggs, Ayuk. He's got Hollywood, Michael Thomas. He had Nuke, Dell, and Downs. Good trade. So basically, good trade trading Hopkins for Mixon.
Yep, good trade. Yeah, great trade. I think it's totally fine. I think DeAndre Hopkins is not gonna give you a ton for redraft the rest of the season. I mean, dynasty.
He's not going to put up what he did each and every single week. What he showed us in week 5. So it's a good trade. Mixon hasn't had a blow up game yet. It's a good time. And Cincinnati's offense is getting healthier. So
yeah, Nuke was a luxury in that wide receiver room for you.
Yeah. Also saw someone trade Hawkinson for Waller and Pickens. Is that a fair trade?
I mean, it is, but I have a feeling they're going to regret that because Hawkinson without Justin Jefferson could be vicious. But it's a fair trade. It's a fair trade.
Yeah, it's definitely a fair trade. I don't think Hawkinson is playing at an elite level where he's just basically almost unstoppable compared to Waller. I think Waller could end up having better games at some point this year still. And Pickens is a fine wide receiver 3 with upside. So I don't think it's a bad move. It's a fair move. I'd say it's not like 1-1 over the other. But it's nice to have Hawkinson for sure. But I think it's a pretty fair trade. Z Smitty asked, start Olave or Mixon in my flex PPR. Obviously, Olave has Houston and Mixon has. Ooh, why can't I think who they have this week offhand?
Sorry. Let me. I'm not.
I should have it in front of me. It's in front of me somewhere.
Seattle.
Here.
They're playing Seattle. Sorry,
Seattle. All right. Yes. Yeah. So which way are you leaning here?
Oh, man.
Thank you, Dylan. Appreciate that.
Yeah, this is another tough one too because Olave. I think the answer is Olave. In my mind, Olave is kind of that flex player that you look for that could have a huge day. But traditionally, Houston is a tough matchup for wide receivers only because you can just kind of beat them on the ground so much. And I do think that the Saints defense is going to, it looks good. So Derek Carr hasn't looked good, but I still would just play Olave over Mixon just for the fact that there's, I don't know how big of a game Mixon can have without multiple touchdowns. Olave can have a big game. He could go have 100-yard game, and be fine without a touchdown. Mixon doesn't get in the end zone, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, no, I'm going to lean Mixon personally on this one. Seattle's let up 5 rushing touchdowns so far this season. It's kind of hard to trust what the Saints passing attack is doing right now. Like Olave got lucky that he caught a touchdown last week. I think he caught 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
They're just not throwing the ball with Carr's injury right now. So I'm going to lead to the red hot Bengals right now and hope that Joe Mixon gets a touchdown this week. So I would lean Joe Mixon here. And then Smitty also asks, my team is 2-3. What moves would you make? Smitty, we're going to look at this and send us a message on Twitter here.
Yeah.
I want to think about this.
Send us a message on Twitter. But I will say, if you're 2-3, I would try and move Achane and Jefferson. But the rest we got to kind of parse.
Yeah, send us if you have a Twitter or an email, send it over in the comments, and I will send you a message after this because it's going to take a little long to really break down that team for us. So, yes. So I like those questions, but send it out. Let us know your contact information, and we will email you. Promise that. To get back to this Ravens Titans game here, like I said, you start Jackson, start Andrews, Flowers, Henry, and Hopkins. You sit Tennessee, you sit Tannehill, you sit Chigakonkwa, you sit mostly all the Titans receivers, Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham. Are you starting like the Ravens running backs, John? You going after Gus Edwards?
Desperation start if you need to, but I'd rather not. We've seen now this has become a real nebulous backfield where everyone is getting kind of equal amount of touches, but no one is really kind of stepped up. So out of the two, I would play Justice Hill just because he's more explosive than Gus Edwards, but I'm not thrilled starting either one of them. And then Lamar Jackson could vulture a touchdown on the goal line. So, what are you really getting?
Right now? Yeah. I mean, they're both like RB3s. I don't really see big upside at either one of the running backs for the Ravens this week here. They're more like you're struggling at RB and that's kind of what you have going on. You're using one of those as your RB2, which is unfortunate. So, I'm not really thrilled to start either one. Nelson Aguilar kind of just threw in there because the Titans do give up a lot to the slot, and he was playing a lot to the slot last week in week 5, even with Beckham and Bateman there. But again, probably more of a deeper league start than anything, but I just wanted to mention him. The Washington Commanders and the Atlanta Falcons. Question of the game, are you starting any of the Commanders wide receivers this week?
I mean, you can start Terry McLaurin. You can. I think he's probably a wide receiver 3 with some upside, but I'm not trying my best to get him in my lineup. But he is still startable in my mind.
All right. I probably want to start Curtis Samuel of all of them. Not really trusting. Like McLaurin is just putting up like 6 or 7 points each week. It's not looking like I can trust him as an upside play in my starting lineup this week. Like Curtis Samuel's put up 15 fantasy points back-to-back weeks now. If I'm going to trust any of them, to me, it's Curtis Samuel.
This past week with Terry McLaurin, I went back and watched because I was actually watching Logan Thomas and Sam Howell. Terry McLaurin had 2 pretty deep passes, one of them which could have been a touchdown, get called back on PIs. And so if he catches those, it could look like a totally different stat line. So I still believe in Terry. I believe in the talent. I think he's just had kind of a tough go so far.
I respect it. All right. Players you can start, you should start. Bijan Robinson, Brian Robinson, Logan Thomas. Sitting, I'm not really trusting Howell against the Falcons defense. They are pretty tough. Antonio Gibson, I want no part of. Tyler Algier is a good 5-point player. Jahan Dotson, honestly, I just can't start him right now. He's just not performing the standard. Commanders are bad in the secondary there, John. Could you trust Ritter in a Superflex league right now? He came off a big game. And he's dominant at home. He's great at home.
I was a big Desmond Ritter guy in the offseason. I put my money where my mouth was and traded for him in a few leagues, and he is currently in my lineup as my QB2 in a couple dynasty Superflex leagues. So yeah, I think you can absolutely start him as a wide receiver, as a quarterback 2 this week.
Yeah, he's okay. It's hard to trust him, but like it's a good matchup for him. And if you're desperate, I think he could give you some upside as a flex QB2 play. Drake London, again, it will just depend if you trust Ritter enough to throw the ball. I mean, he's a flex boom or bust play. I think you kind of agree on that, John. Kind of just like you throw him in, hope for the best. Are you starting the tight ends? They had combined for like 17 targets last week. Are you going to go for them again this week?
I'm gonna probably fall for Kyle Pitts again. I'm probably going to.
He did good last week.
He looked fine. He's getting targets. I mean, he's had a few games now so far with double-digit targets. So I think you can. Jonnu Smith as well. I think you can take a stab. Jonnu Smith to me is more of like a DFS kind of guy. I think this week, if you can't start Kyle Pitts this week against the Commanders at home, then you can never start him. So I think if he's on your roster, depending on obviously who your alternative is, but I think you can start him and probably should start him. And if he lets you down this week, then forget it. Just I don't know, drop him and burn that bridge. Get rid of it.
I mean, they're both. I think you can both start them in most leagues here. If you have them as your starting tight end, I think you can throw them in your lineup and expect a decent production. Commanders are decent against tight ends, even though they didn't show it last week. But I think they're both start worthy. It's because of the targets they're seeing. They're just seeing so many targets. It's like at this point, you just got to trust them in your starting lineup. They're getting the target share to be tight end 1s. It's just the production isn't always tight end 1 worthy. So,
correct.
All right. Before we get to the next game here, we have a question in chat. Start and sit. 2 RBs, 2 wide receivers, and a flex. So let's start with the RBs, John. You have Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Rashard White, Jerome Ford, and it looks like Breece Hall. Which of those 2 are you starting at running back?
Well, I'm starting Josh Jacobs. And man, JT is a scary one. I would probably start Breece Hall over Jonathan Taylor right now. So that's where I would go.
I think I would probably take JT and Jacobs just because the Eagles defense is so tough against running backs this year. But it's a rain game in New Jersey this weekend, so it might benefit Hall. But I think in terms of these 2 RB spots, I think I'd lean JT and Jacobs. All right, now 2 wide receivers. We have Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, Chase, Godwin, JSN.
This is a great team. Jesus.
So Chase 100%. Chase 100%.
Yeah, Chase for sure. And then I'll be honest, probably Godwin.
I was going to say the same thing. I think it's the safe move.
Probably Godwin, which is crazy. But yeah, I just don't know. I mean, Garrett Wilson, you can always throw in there because I think he's hyper talented and can make anything happen. But I just don't, especially if you're starting Breece Hall and it's a rainy. If you do go Jacobs and Breece Hall and it's a rainy game, then there's no way I'm starting Garrett Wilson. So I would do Chase Godwin. I would do Jacobs, Hall, Chase and Godwin. And then my flex would probably be either Jonathan Taylor or probably Jonathan Taylor. That would be my flex. That's how I would do it.
All right. I'd pick Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Chase, Godwin, and I would then throw Garrett Wilson in the flex at that point there. I honestly don't hate Logan Thomas either in a really positive matchup, but I'm not going to go that crazy. I think, Garrett Wilson in the flex is good enough for me. So, so that's how I feel. So thank you for that question. Thank you. All right. Over to the Vikings-Bears game here. Do we start KJ Osborne this week?
Yes, I think you have to. Not have to, but I think you can. You absolutely can. Vikings are still going to throw the ball. Bears defense is nothing to be afraid of, and Jordan Addison can't carry the entire offense. So I think KJ Osborne's he's a good player. He's a good threat. He's steady pro, and he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think you can. Again, don't start him over some of your like proven players. That's the one thing I'll say. Like has a favorable matchup, but I would still start your proven players that you have on your team that you drafted that you've been going with this whole season. Like just don't throw. He's not an auto start, but he's a good start this week. So that's the way I feel about Osborne. So for this matchup though, you start Fields, you start DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Alexander Madison, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison. You sit Cam Akers just because his role really hasn't expanded enough for me to trust him. And there are RBs for the Bears. Like, all right now, Roschon's not playing, so it might just be Deontay Foreman, which would be an automatic just put him in the start column. But if they both are playing, you have to limit expectation. You probably don't want to start them as frequently if they're both on the field in week 6.
Yes, that's how I'm treating it. If Roschon is out, I'm fine playing Deonta. If Roschon's in, I don't really want to play either one. That's
right.
Kind
Minnesota's
of
been pretty good against like running backs. They let up work in their passing game, so that's kind of the way that works. All right, Seahawks Bengals. There's a game I couldn't think of. Can you flex or would you flex JSN off a bye?
No,
You're not taking that risk yet with him.
No, not yet. JSN to me is hyper talented. I think he was a luxury pick by the Seattle Seahawks, and they, don't need him right this second. And so he's just going to get kind of 3, 4, 5 targets every week until they need him or until he really kind of pops off. And so, yeah, I'm okay with just holding on JSN as a bench stash still for now. There is talk. DK Metcalf has a rib injury apparently, so he missed practice today. I think he's tough as nails and he'll play, but if he doesn't, that changes things, of course. But no, I'm cool. I'm cool not playing JSN right now.
Yeah, I'm not buying this particular rookie to come in and because a lot of rookies do happen to play better after a bye week, but I don't think this is a situation where JSN is just going to come in and dominate the targets, 9 or 8 targets in a game, and just be the number one on this team now. I think it's still going to take more time, but he should be rostered. He should be rostered in your team because God forbid something happens to Metcalf or Lockett. He has tremendous upside. Just because people have been asking me, should I drop the JSN? I'm like, no, hold on to JSN still. So, for starts, Joe Burrow, Ken Walker, Joe Mixon, DK Metcalf, Jamar Chase, of course, sits. I don't really want to start Geno. It's not the best matchup for him personally. I have T. Higgins as a sit, and I honestly feel fine with that, to be honest. Even if he does play, it's just risky with his injury and the fact that he's just so boom or bust. I don't want to play him off his injury week. And then Irv Smith is just non-existent.
Useless.
Are you okay with Tyler Lockett in the flex?
Yep. Tyler Lockett he's the perfect flex. He's been the perfect flex player for the past 5 years. He's just perfect for it. He could get you 25 points, could get you 5 points. It's just, you take what you can with Tyler Lockett.
And we have a question about Geno Smith. So this is perfect timing, and we're in the Seahawks game here. A&J Films, start Geno or Stroud or Derek Carr?
Stroud. I would start CJ Stroud. I would.
Yes. I actually would as well, too, to be honest there. I'm not liking the matchup for Geno this week. Overall, he just really hasn't been that much of an upside play, and I think this is a big running back week for Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet. And Carr's just too inconsistent. I think Stroud, even in a tough matchup last week, he showed that he could still put up almost 20 points in a game. So I would lean Stroud on this one, too. Like I said, Zach Charbonnet could be potentially a decent flex play because he's a rookie that's coming off, and I think he could be a guy that sees more opportunity, unlike JSN right now, because of the way the running back room is going. So he's just a name to throw out there. Tyler Boyd, if T. Higgins plays, I want nothing to do with Tyler Boyd.
Correct.
And that I don't think I want to, even though the matchup makes sense for him, but he's he's not good right now for us, unfortunately. And no offense to sleeper tight end because Seattle, the Bengals are so bad against tight ends. But again, you have to be streaming tight ends to go in that direction. And then JN Film, cool. Another question: Montgomery for Puka. So you trading Dave Montgomery for Puka?
Ooh. I don't know. I probably wouldn't, just because I think finding replacement running back is hard to do. And David Montgomery is great. He looks good. The team loves him. They're not really involving Jahmyr Gibbs the way we thought.
And he's hurt.
And Jahmyr Gibbs is banged up. Yeah, I mean, it's just so I think Montgomery is a rock solid RB1 going forward until we are proven otherwise. So to trade that away is really difficult. Like, you would, in my mind, and not that Puka isn't, but you would need an absolute like game changer at wide receiver in order for me to give up Montgomery, just because I think running back positional value is very high right now. I mean, it's just, it's tough. It's tough to find like a in your lineup, locked and loaded RB1 every week. And David Montgomery seems to be that guy right now.
Right. And I understand wanting to sell high on a running back that's had back-to-back 100-yard games like that. But with Dave Montgomery is that, like, unless you have you could go out there today and get Josh Downs and start Josh Downs this week. You go out there today and you're getting the Cardinals back up. Like, that's what you're getting out there when you trade a player away like Dave Montgomery. Like, you're getting Puka, which is great. And if it was Dynasty, I'd say yes. But I'm assuming this is going to probably be a redraft here. And you're losing on an opportunity to have an RB1 the rest of the season. Like, he can be an RB1 the rest of the season. Like, I don't see a reason why they're going to move away from what they're doing, and they're doing it well with Montgomery, even though Puka has been fantastic. But you can always find a replacement at wide receiver for the week if you need it. So unless you have tremendous depth, I'd hold on Montgomery too.
Yeah. You would have to have some serious running back depth.
Yeah, you have to have at least three players that you could start any given week if you're trading Dave Montgomery. Personally, that's how I feel about it. If you don't, then I'm holding him. All right. 49ers Browns. This is a pretty easy one. Are you trusting a Brown without Deshaun Watson on the field?
Nope.
Okay. I respect it.
I wouldn't. Nope. I don't want anybody. If there's no Deshaun Watson, I don't want anybody. And even with Deshaun Watson, a hurt Deshaun Watson against the 49ers defense, I would start Amari Cooper just because. But other than that, I wouldn't really want to start anybody else.
I agree. I actually agree with you on that one. Yeah, I really don't want to start pretty much all Browns besides Jerome Ford right now. And even Jerome Ford could be kind of a risky play. But yeah, with or with Watson, this is not a game that I want to trust the Brown. But you do trust Brock, CMC, Jerome Ford, like I mentioned, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuels, George Kittle. You sit in whoever the Browns quarterback is, you sit Kareem Hunt, you sit David Njoku, Donovan Peoples-Jones. And like I said, Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore, really not trying to start them if I don't have to. But you're right, John. If Watson plays, I would just start Cooper as a flex anyway. So that was an easy one there. I like that one. All right, Carolina Panthers versus my Dolphins here. I didn't have a good question of the game for this one here. So I'm just going to go through the lines of start and sits here. You start Tua, Tyreek Hill, Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Adam Thielen. You sit Bryce Young. You sit both tight ends. I don't know if Jeff Wilson is coming off this week. I have not seen an official report. But if he does come off, do you give him a chance in your lineup or not yet?
Probably not yet. Because I think that, they're going to handle the Carolina Panthers pretty easily. So I don't think they'll rush Jeff Wilson back into the lineup for this game.
Might be a Ahmed backup kind of situation this week.
Yeah, I'm okay letting Jeff Wilson, and they know that Jeff Wilson is the type of guy that you need down the stretch. You don't need Jeff Wilson right now. So I think that even if he's back, he'll probably be in a very, very minuscule role against Carolina.
Right. No, I like it. Miles Sanders, like I said, he hasn't practiced, and I think there's a good chance he misses this game, which would then put Chuba Hubbard in that more of the start range because he would likely see majority of the work. So keep your eye out for that. And I don't know, Mingo and Shark, like the matchup kind of makes sense, but again, you're looking at more deeper leagues for both those guys. Like I did do an article that said Mingo could have a pretty good week, so I do believe that. But yeah, I just put them there because they're kind of like sleepers, but like it's kind of hard to trust them as like a normal 12-man league sleeper play. But they're more like 14, 16-man league. But I wanted to mention them for your team, for people who play in any format. So
Yep, they're good to mention. I just think Bryce Young hasn't performed nearly as well as anyone expected. So it's just hard to start anyone outside of Adam Thielen.
Yes, most of his production last week came in garbage time last week, so like it
Yeah.
wasn't like he was playing that well, and
No,
so
he looks bad. Yeah.
not great. Yeah, yeah. I'm glad I only got him in like 1 week. All right, divisional matchup here between the Colts and the Jaguars. Can we flex Josh Downs this week?
I
Coming
think
off a
so.
big week.
I think you can. I think I'm not afraid of Gardner Minshew. I think if anything, it helps because he won't kind of tuck and run. He will always keep his head up and be looking downfield. And I think Josh Downs is a really good wide receiver. Hyper productive in college, and he's coming into the league, earning targets, and looked great last week. So I'm buying in on Josh Downs. I think he looks good.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same page with you. I think you can flex him this week. I think he has seen enough targets over the last 3 weeks here now, and every time he's performed, he's had Gardner Minshew as his quarterback. So yeah, give me Josh Downs this week here. I think he's a solid flex play if you pick him up this week if you need to start. You start Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, basically the whole starting lineup for the Jaguars. Michael Pittman, you start. You don't start a Colts tight end. You don't start Alec Pierce at all. Zay Jones, I'm not really trying to start. I think we've talked a lot about Jonathan Taylor, and it always seemed to be like, with Jonathan Taylor. And I think you start him as your RB2 because you're likely struggling at running back more than likely because you need a body, but don't feel great about it. And I don't feel great about giving Zach Moss a start either. I prefer not to start this backfield if I can.
Yeah, it doesn't feel safe at all. But I do think that you can play. I mean, listen, you could play either one. I mean, obviously, Zach Moss
That's the issue. We don't know who's going to see the rock.
looked great. Yeah, that's the thing. You could make an argument in case for either guy, and I would have to kind of agree with you. So I think you could start either one, but it is just risky business. But with running backs, sometimes that's what you need. I mean, I'm probably taking my stab at like Jonathan Taylor or Zach Moss over,
Gus?
If there's no, over Gus for sure. But if there's no Deshaun Watson, I'm probably taking both of these guys over Jerome Ford. So,
okay, I don't hate that.
Yeah, so I think you have to kind of get risky with running backs sometimes, and both of these guys are very risky, but we saw Zach Moss last week look totally fine. So, I think you can start him.
Yeah, no, I think you could start either one. It's really, I would love to know who would be the passing downs back. Because Zach Moss basically had the whole role last week. We aren't sure what kind of role Taylor will have moving forward. It could be a 50-50 split. It could be Taylor is just the guy again. But we know that Minshew loves a third of running backs. And we saw it in week 3 when he got the start. Zach Moss had 4 catches in that game there. So it'll be interesting to see who plays the passing downs back. But I think you could flex both those guys if you're in a situation you just need a body and hope for the best for one of them to kind of play. But you're hoping you start the pass catching one. That's the thing. Because that will be probably whoever catches more targets will probably be the one who has the better day. We have a question in chat from here. I'm 4-1 projected first in my 10-man PPR league. I need to know if I did a smart move. I have Kelsey and Laporta, so I traded Laporta for Pittman I've traded Laporta and Pittman for Saquon. I may have overpaid, but he would be my flex. Did you like that trade, trading Michael Pittman and Sam Laporta for Saquon Barkley right now?
I think if Travis Kelce stays healthy, that is a good trade. If Travis Kelce keeps battling injuries all year, it could feel bad because I do believe Sam Laporta is legit, and I do believe Sam Laporta is the real deal at tight end. So I don't really care about Pittman, whatever. In a 10-man league, there's probably plenty of wide receivers you can kind of salvage off the waiver wire. So I'm okay with Pittman. It's just the Kelce Laporta one that makes me nervous. I think if Kelsey's healthy, it's absolutely a great trade because now you get a superstar in Saquon Barkley who's looks to be coming off this injury soon. So I'm okay with it. The only thing that makes me nervous if Travis Kelce is going to be kind of questionable every week, and you got to play this game of is Kelce going to go every single week? It's like just a headache. It's so scary.
Yeah, no, it could definitely be scary. I think with a 10-man league, you might have more streaming options at tight end than you would like a 12-man league or something like that. There could be somebody out there that could help you win a week here and there when you need it. But yeah, I definitely don't like having to deal with that. But as the trade in general, I think you're fine. I think it's a solid trade. I mean, if Saquon comes back, he has the most upside than all three of those players in that trade. So it's a fine trade. You're taking a risk that hopefully Saquon comes back and is ready to go for week 6 or 7, and you're hoping he doesn't get hurt the rest of the season. So that's the only risk with it. But yeah, I mean, it's a trade that will boost your starting lineup and give you a bigger upside each and every single week. Yeah, so it's a fine trade.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's a smart move. It's a smart move. It's a smart move to update your trade. So I think it's fine.
Anytime you can get a superstar running back, I always think that you gotta kind of do that, especially in redraft, because they help and they're hard to find.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get over to the next game here. Saints, Titans, Texans. Can we trust Dalton Schultz? He had a great week last week. Are you trusting him?
Yeah, I think you can. I think tight ends are all, once you're outside of the top 5, tight ends are all kind of a dice roll. And CJ Stroud looks good. Dalton Schultz got a touchdown. So yeah, I think you can play Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, I think you can as well. I am a little nervous on Dalton Schultz because a lot of his production came in after Tank Dell and Bob Woods left. But then Tank Dell's not playing potentially, and Bob Woods, he'll be back. And I think you can start Dalton Schultz as your tight end 1 this week. I shouldn't have any issues with that. I think he will be peppered with targets in a situation that they need to, even though it's not a favorable matchup. So that's kind of how I feel about it. So
yeah, Tank Dell didn't practice again today. He's in concussion protocol, and everything we've seen so far this season is if you get a concussion, odds are you're missing at least this next week.
Especially if you did it on Sunday. So
yeah, I just have a feeling you're not going to have Tank Dell.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Gibran, thank you for the sub. We appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Continue to follow. We'll gladly help you out for the whole season. Let's see. Super challengers. I got offered Bijan, DK, and Aaron Jones for Diggs and CeeDee Lamb. What do y'all think? No, absolutely not. Let me read the rest of his comments. But based off that, I'm going to say no. He has Jamar. He's got Jefferson, Zay Flowers, and pretty much Gibbs is his only running back.
Man, I kind of want to make that trade. Diggs and CD for
but they're PPR machines.
I know. You're giving up arguably 2 of the better PPR options. Yeah, I guess I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't. I would maybe get someone. I would get someone other than Aaron Jones. If you could get someone other than Aaron Jones, I would be more into that trade. I just don't. I mean, I'm just not.
People very highly value Bijan Robinson right now, and I get why. But he said pretty much Gibbs is the only RB.
Yeah, that sucks because you do. It does suck that you're kind of in this weird RB situation. So I get why you'd want to get out of it. And Diggs and CD are probably your best assets to get you out of this running back situation quickly. I'm okay with Bijan and DK. It's the Aaron Jones that's kind of like dragging this deal down, where it's like, Aaron Jones is fine, but I'm not like in love with him.
Based on value, overall value, I think you have 2 wide receiver 1s, and then you're getting an RB1, a wide receiver 2, and you're getting a low-end RB2 that's not looking too good in this Packers offense right now.
Right.
And it's PPR league. You're expecting Diggs and CeeDee Lamb probably over 100 catches this year at least. Yeah. I would trade Jefferson. He has Jefferson. I would just trade Jefferson to whatever owner you can and get an RB out of that way. Because you have 3.
See if they'll do Jefferson for Aaron Jones right now, straight up. Like, I mean, they might.
I would maybe want something else besides Aaron Jones, but It makes sense for your team. Absolutely, it does. But in terms of the value you're giving up to get Bijan Robinson, like, do you feel better with having Jamar Chase and DK or Diggs and CD?
Oh, Diggs and CD.
That's what I'm saying.
Jamar Chase and DK Metcalf for PPR purposes are not nearly as valuable as Diggs and CD, which is crazy to say. But the thing is, in your mind, you think, because, Chase could have a big game, DK could have a big game. Yeah, but if they don't, we've seen the floor for both of these players. The floor for Diggs and CD is not nearly that bad. It's like a bad game for Diggs
it's like 14, 15 points without a touchdown.
Right. Like that's a bad game for Diggs is in the teens. Yeah, it's still a good game, right? So I would just be careful. I mean, listen, your team could explode one week and put up 5,000 points, but it would just be less consistent in a PPR format.
Right. Like I said, if you want to make the move, it's not a bad trade in a general sense. If you think this makes sense for what you need for your team moving forward, it's not bad. You're getting a stud RB and you're getting a good wide receiver too. But in terms of PPR, I think I'd prefer to keep Diggs and CeeDee Lamb because I think the long term for the regular season here for you, they will carry you very far, and you have to find a way to make up for the running back situation. But look in trading Jefferson, look in trading Zay Flowers. Like I feel like you get Zay Flowers for Aaron Jones. Like I would do that. Like, would you trade Zay Flowers for Aaron Jones real quick?
Zay Flowers for Aaron Jones.
I would because
if you're hurting at running back. Yeah, if you're hurting at running back, I would.
Yeah, I would prefer to do that if I had to pick a choice. So, all right, let's get back to the game here. You start Alvin Kamara, start Nico Collins, start Chris Olave. You sit any Saints tight ends. You sit Dameon Pierce, Rashard Rashid, Bob Woods. We already said DJ Stroud you can start. Derek Carr, I really don't want to start. Overall, if Tank Dell's out, John Mechie would jump into the slot role. Or the outside role there. So he could be interesting, but probably wouldn't want to start him. And Kendrick Miller is kind of like a RB, like a low-end RB3 that has sleeper appeal because the Texans' run defense is kind of shitty. So he might see opportunity in this game like he saw last week. So he's a name to keep your eye on if you're desperate at RB as your RB2 or flex for week 6. So. All right, we are very far behind, but that's okay here because we're helping everyone answer questions here. So Calvin Forbes, start Amari Cooper, Gabe Davis, or Tyler Lockett this week? I'm starting Gabe Davis.
I would start Gabe Davis. Yeah, I would start Gabe Davis.
Yes, he's got a fantastic matchup this week against the Giants. I'm giving Davis a fifth touchdown and a fourth touchdown in 4 straight games. So Gabe Davis to me would be the guy there. Let's go to the next game. Patriots. This is actually an easy one. Patriots Raiders. Do you start any Patriots, John?
No. You don't start any Patriots right now.
No. You see how
they are arguably the worst team in the league right now. You do not start any Patriots.
Makes me so happy. But you start.
Makes me sad.
Yeah, you're very welcome there, Calvin. Yes, I'm not starting any Patriots besides Hunter Henry. I'm okay with Hunter Henry as the tight end position because it's a tight end position. So I'm okay with that. You start Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers. Jimmy G could have some sleeper potential on his end there. I don't know how. I probably feel comfortable in Superflex League starting him, but I would love to see some kind of swagger from him and Jacoby Myers just shitting on the Patriots in their revenge game this week here. So that would be fun. Not starting any Raiders tight ends. Mac Jones is 100% a sit. And again, I don't want to start even Ramondre Stevenson that much. Like, I mean, you can. But I don't want to.
Of course, you can start. You can start Ramondre, but I wouldn't love it. I wouldn't want to.
Right.
I just he hasn't done much yet, and the offense looks putrid.
They're splitting with Zeke too much. He's getting too much split work with Zeke. So,
and the offense is not in scoring positions often. It's just ugly.
0 points in back-to-back weeks. Like that's not what you want for your fantasy players. So, Cardinals Rams here. Are you starting one of the Cardinals running backs this week? Keontae Ingram and
I mean there's doubt that Keontae Ingram goes, and then
probably.
I would start
Emery.
His name's crazy. His name's crazy, but I would start that rookie. Of course, because he'll have the backfield to himself. They did sign Tony Jones. I don't think Tony Jones will be ready this week.
So
Yeah, fine. I'm not worried about him. I would if Keontae Ingram's out, which it seems like he's going to be. I would start the rookie. If Keontae Ingram does somehow go, then it is too messy for me to trust anybody.
right, yeah. I mean, yeah, he's a decent RB3 this week that you can play if you're hurting at running back. I'm hoping that he sees most of the work. The rookie Cardinals running back. So yeah. We have a question from Team Visions. How much value does Saquon have right now? Someone offered me him and Hollywood Brown for Jamar Chase, PPR.
No.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
his value is kind of risky just because yeah, like Motion Man just said, the Giants O-line sucks. He's been banged up this season here. The chance of re-injuring is probably pretty high for him rest of the year. And Jamar Chase has been just an elite option for us in fantasy. So, yeah, no, I wouldn't accept that. His value is like a low end, is like an RB2 right now. And I just don't see the RB1 upside in his value at this exact moment for you to trade away Jamar Chase to get him and Hollywood Brown, who has been, he's been a decent wide receiver 3. So, but Jamar Chase is a wide receiver 1 with wide receiver 1 finish each and every single week upside. So I would hold off on that. So, you start Puka, you start Cooper Kupp, Kerryon Williams, Matt Stafford, Zach Ertz, Hollywood Brown. You start if you have them, you start them. Sit Tyler Higbee, sit Michael Wilson. I think Joshua Dobbs is a decent super flex play this week. John.
Yeah, he's fine. You can super flex him. He's looked okay. He's throwing the ball well. The offense surprising. I think he's a better super flex start than like Desmond Ridder. So
or Derek Carr.
or Derek Carr. Yeah,
yes,
I would take Dobbs over a few guys.
Perfect. Motion Man has his own question. Let's see. Should I trade Eckler? 10-man PPR league. My running backs are Monty, Brees, and Jacobs. I'm thinking of offering either Brees or Jacobs.
So should I trade for Eckler?
Oh, trade for. I'm sorry. I was terrible at reading.
Yeah, trade for Eckler. Oh, yeah. If you could turn Josh Jacobs into Eckler right now, I would do that. I mean, I would so then you have Monty as like your solid, steady Eddie. You got Eckler as your explosive RB1, and then you got Brees in your flex. Brees as your RB3 is crazy. So
his main concern is that it's PPR, and Josh Jacobs has been the most targeted RB in the passing game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also don't think the Vegas Raiders are, really gonna explode offensively anytime soon. And that, I think running backs and that's crazy to say because I don't think the Jets offense is that good, but running backs on good offenses to me are usually because they have more touchdown opportunity. So that is really where you get like these big spike weeks from running backs, is if they have 2 touchdowns. It's just tough I just don't know about the Vegas Raiders right now. And that's the only thing that makes me nervous. But if you want to do Brees for Eckler, I would do that too. I mean, either one of those guys, Brees or Jacobs for Eckler, is a good trade. I personally would lean Josh Jacobs for Eckler, but I mean, Brees for Eckler is good too.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would lean Brees Hall just because of the offense that he's in. But you also don't have to. I think you have good running backs that you don't need to make the move. And I don't know if I'm the Eckler owner who held on to him this whole time, would trade him away for Hall or Jacobs right now, because Eckler coming back gives me a high-end RB1 that I want to hold on to. But I mean, if you want Eckler on your team, give it a shot with either Brees Hall or Jacobs. I think you could go either direction. I think John, I prefer Jacobs. I prefer Hall, but yeah, I think you could go either way with that. But you don't also have to do anything. Your team is pretty solid with those 3 running backs. So, Motion Man. So thank you for that. Again, talking about Brees Hall, are you worried about Brees Hall in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about him because, the Philadelphia Eagles are a good defense and the New York Jets offense isn't great. But I do believe that Brees Hall is talented enough. It's funny, similar to Garrett Wilson. I think he's talented enough that he could make a lot happen in a few plays. We've seen it. We saw it week 1. We saw it this last week. Explosive, man. So you can start him. Absolutely. But I am worried about it. But he could, in the first quarter, he could rip off a 40-yard touchdown run, and you're not worried about anything. So that's kind of what you have to do with Brees and Garrett Wilson right now, just because of the situation.
I respect it. Yeah. I kind of like what you said on that. Some starts: Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, DeAndre Swift, Dallas Goedert, Garrett Wilson. You sit Dalvin Cook, Zach Wilson, Kenny Gainwell, Devonta Smith. I put him on the line because it is a tough matchup for the Jets. I wouldn't be surprised if he has another down week right now, but you can still flex him. Alan Lazard kind of jumped up on the board a little bit for me the last few weeks now. He did something decent over the last 2 weeks now. And it's a matchup that's kind of favorable for a wide receiver. So I wouldn't be mad if you wanted to start him in like a 14, 16-man league, or if you're looking for flex in a 12-man league. But yeah, I mean, I'm not overly confident, especially if it's going to rain in New Jersey. I probably don't want to start him. Tyler Conklin is like a streaming tight end this week if you're looking for a streaming tight end. So, all right, over to the next game, Lions Bucks. Are we trusting Rachaad White, John?
No, not against Detroit. Detroit's defense again looks great. Their front seven is nasty. I do think you can beat the Detroit Lions through the air a little. But yeah, I think you can start Rachaad White based on volume alone, but I'm not trusting him. I wouldn't trust him in this matchup.
I know, absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't really want to trust him either. It's a tough matchup for him here this week in here, and he's going to see the value, but he's going to see like 7 points on the day here. Don't want to start him if you have better options. So you start Dave Montgomery, St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, Sam Laporta, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. You sit Jared Goff because Jared Goff is terrible on the road this year. He's averaging like 15 fantasy points a game compared to like 27 at home. Kate Otten, you sit. Baker's a nice sleeper quarterback this week that you could go off of. I probably wouldn't want to start Jameson Williams, but I wanted to mention his name. Why? Just that until he sees like more than just 2 targets in a game, I don't want to start the guy who's not playing on that high level yet. If Jahmyr Gibbs plays, you flex him. But again, don't feel comfortable with him right now as a flex option. So, all right, Giants Bills Sunday night game here, John. Are we starting any Giants pass catchers?
Nope. The only pass catcher I would start is maybe Darren Waller. That's the only one I would start because you probably drafted him pretty high and you might not have a better tight end on your bench, but that's the only one I would start.
Agreed. I like that. Yep. You start Josh Allen, you start James Cook, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. You sit Knox, you sit Kincaid, Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, Latavius Murray, Damian Harris. Probably sit basically every Giants wide receivers, but I wouldn't mind like a Darius Slay if Tyrod plays, because I feel like the offense may be a little bit better under Tyrod Taylor than what Daniel Jones has been giving us. Slightly. Not a lot, but slightly. And then if Saquon plays, you start Saquon. If he doesn't play, I think Matt Breida is a decent flex option. The Bills are terrible against the run this week, and deep sleeper pick, Eric Gray. And then we come down.
Yeah, that's a Derek. I think that's kind of where I would be too.
Yes. A couple more questions in the chat here. Would you trade Derek Carr and Downs for Jacoby Myers?
No. Oh, he has 20-man PPR, and the other guy has no. So wait. Would you trade Carr and Downs for Jacoby Myers in a 20-man PPR? Jesus, that's huge. No, I probably wouldn't, because Jacoby Myers and Josh Downs to me are the same. So you're just giving up Derek Carr for no reason. Yeah, that's not. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I just, but I guess if you really,
he's been so.
If you
good
really
with him
believe in
and
Jacoby Myers, like
good,
if you really believe in Jacoby Myers, then maybe. But I think Josh Downs looks fine. He looks good. Touchdowns aren't going his way right now, but it could easily. So I wouldn't. Especially if the other guy has no backup QB. Let him flounder with no backup QB. Don't try and save him. You got him over a barrel right now. Get someone better than Jacoby Myers. He's got no backup.
Yeah, Jacoby's been like 15 fantasy points in every game when he's played with Jimmy G this year. I mean, if Downs had Anthony Richardson, I would say 100% yes. I'm still leaning towards it. But yeah, I think John's right. If the guy's no backup quarterback, see if you can get a little bit better, or don't trade Josh Downs right now. Maybe hold on to him, trade him something lower tier. If there's someone else lower on your bench, it's a 20-man league, so there's got to be some more players you have down there. And use Carr and give that guy a reason to want Carr. I mean, but yeah, I personally think it's fine. So,
yep.
Motion's got another question here. Start Waller, Logan Thomas, or Jake Ferguson this week? I'm starting
Logan Thomas. I would start Logan Thomas. Yep.
The Falcons are terrible against tight ends.
It's funny. I have Logan Thomas and Jake Ferguson in my FTLS league, which is like my main league, and I'm doing the same decision, but I think I'm going Logan Thomas.
You're sitting pretty. I like it. I just got offered Ken Walker and Brandon Ayuk for Jamar Chase and Drake London.
Got offered Ken Walker and Ayuk for Jamar and London. PPR. Yeah, I mean, if it depends, if you're hurting at running back, I would take that deal, which is
yeah, I would take that deal if you're hurting at running back. If you really need that RB2 on your team, I would take it because I think Brandon Ayuk has a lot of good games left him in this year. I know I said before, like, I don't really want to trade Jamar Chase in most cases, but Ken Walker has been looking nice this year, and Brandon Ayuk is a really strong wide receiver. So yeah, I think I would make that move, but I'd have to know who your other running backs are for you to make that move. If you're really looking for an RB that badly. But yeah, I don't hate it. I think it's a decent trade. Josh also said he also has Higgins and Puka, but I doubt he'll give them up. Yeah, probably not. He probably won't give those.
He also has Higgins and Puka. I don't think he'd give those up for that. Higgins and
maybe
Puka.
Higgins. He might be frustrated with Higgins. I would try for Higgins, and if he says no, he says no. But like Higgins has been such a disappointment for probably his team this year that a guy like Josh Downs just up and coming, and he gets a backup quarterback that maybe he could start over the guy he has at times. You could try it, but I'm okay with Jacoby Myers personally. That's how I feel. I know Johns doesn't feel as high on it, but I am okay with getting Jacoby Myers off that trade. So, all right. And then last but not least, we'll finish this up here. Question of the game. Do we start Josh Palmer or Quentin Johnston?
I would start Josh Palmer over Quentin Johnston. I think you can start both. Rookies coming out of the bye, we've mentioned it a few times. Rookies coming out of the bye tend to take an uptick in sort of targets and performance. So, Quentin Johnston could be, a good sort of sleeper kind of like big monster flex play if you're like desperation flex kind of thing. But Josh Palmer is a pro who looks legit and has been in this offense and been used for fantasy before. So I would prefer Josh Palmer over Quentin Johnston.
Yes, this week alone, I would still go with Joshua Palmer as a flex option over Quentin Johnston. But compared to like we talked about with JSN, Quentin Johnston has a more of a shot to pull a big game coming off the bye. But I'm still sticking with Joshua Palmer as the veteran on the team compared of the two. So, and then of course you start Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler, CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, Keenan Allen. I think Gerald Everett is a decent play here. I probably wouldn't start Gallup and Cooks as much, but maybe as desperate flex options. And sit Joshua Kelly, of course. So, yeah. But that's going to wrap up the Cowboys and Chargers game, and that's going to wrap us up for the night here, guys. We appreciate everyone who tuned in today. John, is there anything you want to mention before we get going?
No, I want to thank everybody that tuned in. It was a ton of fun. These start sits and this part of the season gets interesting with bye weeks and injuries, and so thank you for all these start sit decisions. It's great. It's fun for me to, toil through this with you guys. Please subscribe. It is free for you, but immensely valuable for us. And I would start. Oh, Herbert is questionable, Herbert. Correct? Yeah, I would start Herbert though. Yeah, I would start Herbert. Yeah, I would start Herbert. So Herbert. Thank you all again. Please get at me on Twitter if you have any questions over the weekend or whatever. We're all here. We want to make fantasy football fun and for everybody. So feel free.
Yes, absolutely. Great way to say that. And again, I appreciate everyone who tuned in, whether it's on our live show at YouTube at The Fantasy Coaches and answered any questions for you guys today. We really do appreciate that. We love helping you guys out. or whether if you're listening afterwards on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, we greatly appreciate it. I said we're here every Monday and Thursday, 5:30 p.m. Central Eastern Time, talking fantasy. Waivers on Mondays, starts and sits on Thursdays, and of course I have my Sunday show that we kind of go through maybe some injuries or some replacements for Sunday, usually around 10 a.m. So we appreciate all for listening. Tune in until next time, guys. Thanks for listening, and have a good one.
Back to back is not far-fetched. We got a couple of claws.